So we all know this, the calorie Uno of Seatpost, the Elita One, a staple for the price-conscious weenie out there that still uses a standard size Seatpost. But now, did you know there's a pro version out? I had no idea. I was messing around on my Ari Schaefer and I was pushing the minimum insert pretty far. I actually don't really know what it is. Usually you have a line for the minimum insert. Here there's no line. Is that there, or is it just covering the text? I have no idea, but I'm just in between there, so I was kind of pushing it, which made me start looking again and maybe get a longer version just to be on the safe side. And I was just gonna get the normal one again, but then I saw this, a pro version of the Elita One, and having used both of these now, there's so much good about this for just a slight bit of a price increase, like functionality wise, adjustment wise, just general life improvement with this one. The only real problem is it is heavier than the original Elita One, which is always slightly painful. So I will walk you through all the improvements I think this brings to the table. But first, let's do the weight thing, because I think that's probably what most people want to know anyway. Slight issue though is that this is not quite apples to apples, because this is a 350 and this is a 401. So obviously this will be heavier no matter what. But I think the shaft itself is identical. Maybe not actually. Slightly different shaping around here, but these heads, or like the clamps, should be interchangeable, so you can just weigh the clamp hardware and see where the difference are there. But just to be fully thorough, let's weigh them complete first, so we'll see where we land. Actually, these are not supposed to be included in the weight. All right, so this is the original Elita One, 350 length, 119.3. Yeah, that's pretty decent weight, especially when you take the price into account. The Elita One Pro, which is 400, remember that, 148. So yeah, so what is that, 28 grams, something like that, 29. So let's check the hardware real quick. All right, so this is the clamp hardware, as you can see. It's slightly simpler on the original, just 2 yokes, 2 bolts, and the cradle. Here we have the cradle, slightly different in design, and you have the upper cradle, which is also carbon, with just some T-nuts. I guess you call them T-nuts, something like that. Well, these kinds of nuts, and you just screw them in that way. So let's check the weight difference there. Original clamp, 36.3 grams. And the Pro is 44 grams. So we're talking 8-9 grams increase for the Pro version. But I will say, I think that weight increase is worth it, especially on some kind of saddles, and particularly the Berk Lupina, which I use, which I will show what I mean. But let's see, let's try install this on the older Seatpost, the shorter one, which I'm hoping I will be able to use. The lower cradle is, well, unidirectional, if you want to call it that. The upper part is directional though, so you want Elita One logo pointing forward. So we have the back markings there. So with the Pro saddle clamp on the shorter 350 post, 127.1. So what was the original one? 119.34 something. So we're talking 8-9 gram difference. And like I said, I do think in my case it will be worth it. I will put the older one back on the new post, or the longer post, so I can show you the issues I have. If you don't have any issues, that's all good. You definitely don't need to go spend money for nothing. But I will show you the potential issues that you might run into depending on the saddle. All right, so this is loosely mounted now. So the issue you might run into, like I have, is when you have a saddle like the Berk Lupina that has very low stack height, or like a distance from the rail to the shell. A general issue you might run into is these yokes want to kind of twist when you tighten them down, so you kind of need to hold them in place. That's just a little bit of an inconvenience, not a big deal. The bigger problem is the front screw. While it is shorter than the rear screw, it's still so long that I can, if it's a really bumpy ride, I might actually have a little stimulation, unwanted stimulation by this screw if I'm unlucky, or rip my bibs or whatever. Of course, changing to a shorter screw fixed that issue pretty quick. Nothing to cry about, really. A bigger issue that's not that easy to fix, where I have my saddle position fore aft. Basically, I have the yoke ears in line with the shell, and this shell is very flexy, which makes this saddle so good. But this shell actually, I can push this shell down so it actually touches the yoke. And if you look at my saddle, I actually have some small indents here from the yoke being pressed into the leather. Like, it's not the end of the world, it still hasn't broken anything, but there's a potential long-term reliability issue there, potentially. I do think that most other saddle models and brands have slightly more stack height than the Berk Lupina, for example. So if it's not an issue for you, it's definitely nothing to worry about there. But yeah, I'll show you how this looks on the new clamp. Now, like I said, apart from the weight, pretty much everything is improved on this design, in my opinion. Just starting with mounting the saddle, it's really easy. Just make sure you have the bolts pretty loose, and you can just slide it in from the back like so, and there's no weird twisting involved, and just screw them in like so. And yeah, I do like that they come with black bolts, for example, and visually that looks more compact. Like I said, the cradle is short as well, so you have more fore aft adjustment. Another good thing is this upper cradle part actually sits at an angle just out from the gate. This will be totally symmetrical, which is why my front bolt stuck out so much. This has kind of that design that it actually sits at an angle matching your seat tube angle, so to speak. And I don't have this front bolt sticking out as far as it did on the original Elita One. And as you can see, especially for this Lupina, these won't get in the way for the shell flexing. Even if I bottom this out, this will still clear this. And even though this part kind of sticks up into the saddle, I still have a lot more clearance. So I can't, for the love of me, get this to bottom out against the clamp or this inner part. So it's just a much better match for my Lupina saddles, at least. Of course, you can't deny 8-9 grams is always 8-9 grams, but in my case, I think it's actually worth that. It is slightly more expensive than the original Elita One, but again, they're both so cheap. There's, for me at least, nothing really to think about there. If I want to go even lighter, I need to spend a few more $100 to get there, so yeah. But again, the actual functionality of this is still fine. If you have a saddle that doesn't introduce those issues I had. So yeah, this still, if you want to go the lightest and the cheapest, this is still the one to go for. Now, before we go, Elita One, I don't want to just sing the praises all day long. I just want to bring this into focus again. I did a video on this 2 videos ago or so, something, I don't remember. And of course, I sang my praises on it on the Ari Schaefer build. But this did not last too long, as you can see here. Crackly crack crack. I was messing around with the seat post on the Ari Schaefer. I had set my torque wrench at 5 millimeters, I think. I usually just do 4, and that's what I stay at as long as it doesn't slip, which, to be fair, it didn't, but I have some weird noises coming from there, so I tried to tighten it up a bit more. This is, what do you see? Yeah, it's max 5.5. I had the torque wrench set to 5, and it cracked probably around 4.5, I would guess. Now this is of course just one data point, so I can't say that this would happen to every single Elita One clamp out there. There were some comments on the original video I made on this that said that theirs had cracked as well, so yeah, take it for what it is. Now I won't be getting a new one of these because I have a few metal clamps to choose from in my stash anyway, and yeah, once something breaks I usually don't push my luck with this exact same product again. But yeah, I just wanted to show what happened there. Now what happened to that yellow background that I'm supposed to use when I add grams, I don't think anyone really cares, but I really don't like that background. That color doesn't work for me, so I'm just gonna skip that stupid idea. That was a dumb idea to start with, because I don't add much grams apart from this one and the stem, and yeah, it was a bad idea, so I'm gonna ignore it and pretend it never happened. So yeah, that's it. Peace.